This is the Creative Market Free Goods Roundup for the week of February 1st, 2016. There are 6 different free goods this week, but they are free this week only. So if you see something you like when you watch this video, just check out the description below the video where you will find a link to download each one of these 6 different free items. So first up is One Page Personal Website. This is an extremely simple website that I kind of look at as an online business card or something similar to that, where there's basically a photo of a fluffy kitten, which if you're not a fluffy kitten yourself and you want to replace that with your image, there's an image folder that you can swap this image out with. That's very easy to do. There's room for your name as well as your title, and a little spot below that for a biography for yourself or a quick little snippet about who you are and what you do. Down that we have available for hire, and then different things that you can go ahead and change if you want to. That link to Twitter, Dribbble, GitHub. You could also throw in something like your email if you wanted to, or alternatively change this available for hire into a link that would then perhaps bring up an email window or a mail to link, something like that. That would allow people to get in touch with you for actually hiring you. And also, since this website is so simple to use, I think it'd be a pretty decent one to go into if you're just looking to learn HTML and CSS at the most basic level, because this is not using a CMS like WordPress or anything like that. So there's nothing really tricky to get you stumbled upon if you're just trying to make some basic changes in website structure, like changing type or changing color of type in the CSS. All this stuff like that should be quite easy for you to go in and do if that's something you want to learn a little bit more about. But if you already know that stuff, then this should be extremely simple for you to go in and change and then just upload to a web host and then you're good to go. But that's it for this website. Extremely simple, basically an online business card for yourself. So if you think this will be a useful tool for you in the future, be sure to grab it this week while it's still free. Next up is 8 Concrete Texture Pack. This is a collection of 8 different textures in JPEG format, so I have them opened up inside Photoshop here to show, and they are of concrete, so they have a really rough and gritty feel due to the nature of the texture of concrete. And for the size of these, if I go to image size very quickly here, they're all a little under 3500 by 3500 pixels, so they should be plenty big for most applications where you want to use them. And just something about these different textures, there are 8 in total, but basically there's a positive version, like this one shown right here, and then a negative version, like this one shown right here. So if I were to go to this version and hit Control-I on a PC or Command-I on a Mac to invert it, and then flip between the two, you can tell that these are extremely similar, although they did seem to brighten up the negative version just a little bit to allow for a little bit more white to show through, but the overall patterning is the same, which is really what I wanted to show here. So I'll flip this back to the positive version, and since these are all fairly similar in how they look, I'll just scroll through the 8 different examples here so you can get a good idea of what to expect with these textures. So overall, if you're looking for a very consistent and gritty texture to place over some typography, or perhaps simple silhouettes, then these textures might come in pretty handy for that. And they should also work good as a general background texture overlay if you're looking to do something like that. And one way you can easily apply these textures to, let's say, a background is if you double click on the background layer, just so it's not locked anymore, and then make a new layer and then drag that underneath the texture layer. And I'm just going to fill in the layer right here with a color. So I'll do something kind of bright, like a cyan blue. And then I'm going to hold down Alt on a PC or Option on a Mac and then hit backspace, which will just fill the background layer here with that color, and then select the texture layer on the top of this background that you just made, and then change the blend mode from normal right here in the drop down to something like multiply, which will allow the background color to then show through and the texture on the top to be applied to that background color. And if you want to make this texture tonal to the background color while using multiply, that's actually pretty easy to do. Just hit Control U on a PC or Command U on a Mac to bring up hue saturation. Hit this little colorize checkbox near the lower right, and then bring up the lightness just a little bit, and also bring up the saturation quite a bit. And then as you can see, as I adjust the lightness bar up or down, it becomes a much more tonal texture to the background here. You can also change the hue if you want a different color like that as well, so you can get a lot more diverse effects that way by going in here and doing that step. But that's it for these textures. There's 8 of them in total in JPEG format, so if you have some projects in mind where these textures might come in handy, just be sure to pick this one up this week. Next we have Hellena Script, which is a font. So this script font is provided in a ton of different font formats, including TrueType, OpenType, and then several different web font formats, including WAF and SVG. So I have the font typed up here into the basic alphabet so you can kind of check out how these look. So I'll start with the lowercase letters up the top here so you can get a better idea of how these look up close. So overall, these are pretty clean in their execution, although there are some imperfections that make this have a little bit more of a hand-drawn, brushed script look. although it's not as distressed or rough edged as some other fonts that have a very similar look to this one, but you can certainly see that there is a little bit of wavering that does give that more imperfect handmade appearance. Although of course, if you did want to, you could outline this once you're done and smooth out all the letters of a particular word you made if you wanted to look extremely straight and perfect in its execution. And here are the uppercase versions of the letters, and these uppercase letters do exemplify some of the imperfections in the overall line work to give it that handmade feel. If you're looking at the S right here, you can really see them a little bit more than on some of the other letters here. But overall, an extremely consistent set of letters that also works very well together between the uppercase and lowercase versions. And right here I typed up 0 through 9, so you can see it does include all the numbers, and then it does also include a lot of different special characters, part of which are shown right here. If I go to type and then glyphs near the top here and start to scroll down, you can see all the different special characters that are included. And you notice in this bunch right here, there's a bunch of different accented letters. So if you're using a Latin-based language that is not English, let's say French, you should be well covered with this font with all the different appropriate accented letters to make sure the words are properly spelled out. And at the very bottom here, I typed up Free Goods Roundup so you can see how it looks typed up into a sentence. As you can tell, all these letters flow very nicely together, including things like this D to the S that have a really cool extension on the D's ligature to combine into that S. So little custom things like that do make this look a little bit better than it would if stuff like that didn't happen. And you might want to tighten up some words, but overall the kerning is pretty good. Like on the word Roundup right here, this O to the R is a little bit far back, but you can actually use something called the Touch Type tool in your character palette, which is under Window and then Type and then Character. And then there's a button that says Touch Type Tool if you're on the appropriate version of Adobe CC, I think, or newer. Just click on the O, then hold the back button on the arrow key to nudge that to the R, and very quickly you can tighten up the kerning of these words in a way that still allows you to go in here and add additional letters if that's something you want to do. But that's it for this font. It's a really solid example of the handmade script looking font that's a really popular trend right now. So I'd certainly recommend, if you do enjoy this style of font, that you pick this font up this week while it's still free. Next up is Valentine's Day Doodles. This is a collection of a bunch of different Valentine's Day themed doodles in Illustrator, EPS, as well as transparent background PNG formats. And the transparent background PNGs have each of these different elements on their own file, so this should be very easy for you to go in there and use and combine and move around if you want to use that instead of Illustrator, which is what I have opened up right here. So this is the first page, which is the big page of most of the stuff that's included here. So each of these different elements can be pulled off and then rearranged as you see fit to make custom greeting cards or Valentine's Day themed marketing, stuff like that. Perhaps you're doing a website sale for Valentine's Day and you want some really fun illustrations to put on it, then this would be really useful for you to go in and pick stuff from and kind of rearrange and customize until it works for what you're trying to do. So a bunch of different stuff here, including hearts, little wings with hearts on them, a Cupid arrow right here. So just in general, a pretty decent selection of different things to pick from, even including a love whale, which is a rare species indeed. On the next page here, we have a bit of a pre-made arrangement of stuff. So these elements are on the previous page as well, but this just shows one combination that you could possibly use if you want to just use this as it is, and then perhaps add in some custom Valentine's Day themed type, or use some of this love type on this page and just plop it onto this one right here like this if you want to go in there and do that. As you can see, it's pretty easy to do such things. And this is the last one right here, which is another pre-made element. So perhaps if you are doing some Valentine's Day themed marketing for a coffee shop or something like that, you could just use this as is and perhaps have this on a little flyer that you could then place a Valentine's Day themed sale, or perhaps a special drink that you're offering if that's something you're actually there doing. Of course, you could also just remove this stuff from the middle right here, if I actually can just grab that, and then add in your own custom type into the center of this element if that's something you want to do, which would be very easy, and then you'd have a nice little customized frame for it. But that's it for this pack. If you're on the hunt for some Valentine's Day themed items, then this one might be a good match for you. Just be sure to grab it this week while it's still free. Next up is Campfire Mug Mock Up. This is a pretty simple item because it's basically a photo of a mug. If I turn off this little heart right here, you can see the basic photo that you can then use as a mock-up if that's something you want to do. Alternatively, if you just want a photo of a mug, then here you go. You can also use it as that much more simple purpose. And for the image size here, if I go to image size, it's 3800 and a little bit by a little over 2500 pixels high. So this should be plenty big for most print or web applications, depending on how you want to use this. But basically all they did is put this heart on top of the mug right here so that you can very easily show how your design would look on top of this mug. It isn't masked out, so you will have to size this appropriately or make your own mask around the image of the mug if you want to have something that, for example, wraps around the entire mug. but as you can tell, it does a pretty good job of just showing how your design would look on this mug, and it's a pretty cool looking mug at that. So if you're looking for a very simple way to mock up some stuff and see how it will look on a mug, then this item might be useful for that purpose. But that's it for this item. It is nice and straightforward, and if you do want to mock up some stuff on a mug, then it's certainly something worth picking up, but just be sure to do it this week while it's still free. And last up is Happy Valentine's Day, 5 Cupids. This item includes 5 different Cupid illustrations and then some custom lettering type in EPS as well as transparent background PNG format. So I have the EPS files opened up inside Illustrator right now to show, and I'll just go through these 5 different Cupids so you can get a better idea of what to expect with the illustration style. So overall, the illustration style is extremely well done. It's a very clean illustration style, but it's also really fun. So looking at these, you can tell it's just really well rendered. There's some smart shadowing going on, but it's still a nice and simplified cartoon effect overall. And all the illustrations look extremely similar as far as the character design goes, so you should be able to mix and match these characters into a larger scene if that's something you want to do, and of course take different elements from different parts of these, like the hearts, for example, on this one could be moved over into this illustration if you want to vary things up a little bit from the stock templates that they provided. And also included is this pre-made lettering that you can go ahead and use if you're doing something like a Valentine's Day card or any sort of Valentine's Day themed marketing stuff if you have a small business or want to display this online, anything along those lines. And of course you can ungroup this type and use just these hearts right here and move them around or pull them off to a different document, or perhaps take some of these little starbursts off to the side here. And you could of course pull these, for example, if I ungroup this really quick and just copy it, bring it into this document and then paste it in there. You can mix and match stuff like that in here as well if you want to further customize this document too. The type itself is outlined, so you can't, for example, erase it and just type something else in this particular style of lettering. But since this entire thing is Valentine's Day themed, this is probably what you want to say anyways, and I'm sure you can find some other fairly similar fonts if you want to add some additional stuff onto this, or even just delete the type altogether and then add in your own custom type in the center of this. But that's it for this item. If you have some use for these before Valentine's Day comes up, which is actually quite soon, then I suggest you download them this week while they're still free. So that's it for this week's free goods, and do remember they are free this week only, so if you saw something you might have use for, just check out the description below this video where you will find a link to download it. And as always, if you found this video helpful, please like and favorite, and if you want to see this video every week, please subscribe. This video is released every Monday to let you know it's free this week on Creative Market. Thanks for watching.